Hi, this is Thomas from Bridgehill, and today's exercise is about training with the car fire blankets. We do it in 2 sessions, the cold demo and the hot demo. It is really important that we always bring 2 blankets when we do a hot demo. This will be explained further in this session. For this session, we will be using the training blanket. It is in a bag that is almost identical to the Pro blanket and the standard blanket. But there are some differences. In the training blanket, it is also marked pretty clear that it's only for cold demos and not for hot demos. That is clue number 1. When we open the bag, you will find gloves. These gloves is something that you also will find in the standard single-use blankets, but you will not find them in the Pro blankets. On the side of the bag, you will find the instruction manual in 4 languages, which is identical for all blankets. The training blanket, the standard blanket, and the Pro blanket. But the only difference is we have a repair kit. It is not in the training blanket, it is not in the standard blanket, but you will always find it in the Pro blanket. So, I'm standing here with 2 volunteer firefighters who will help me with this instruction of the use of car fire blanket. The most important thing is to start with the placement of the bag. Center in front of the car. Open the chain, always open. Take the bag away. The belt, open. If it is a Pro blanket, we use it, and also for the training blanket, we use it. Now, if one can stand on each side of the blanket, and you can start rolling it out. Now the blanket is all ready to be pulled over the car. Then we will start with lesson number 1, to keep the blanket tied together. If you will help me, this side. Like this. Okay? Now you can just cover the car. Perfect. Now we had a deployment where the blanket went all the way too much on the left side and too little on the right side. Now we are going to demonstrate how to adjust this in a safe way. So if my volunteers can take their handles. We don't want the blanket to be lifted too high. We need to work as slow as possible. I will show on this side. So not like this, but keep it in an angle and pulling it. Yeah. And like that, we have covered the car perfect on the side. The next phase will be, then I can, if you can come back here, is to safely take off the blanket from the car. Many would think that it's smart to pull the blanket like this over again. It is not. In case the car is still on fire, we will have a big problem with people standing almost into the flame. So we will start on the very front of the car. And then safely pulling the blanket off the car. Stop. Perfect. The next phase will be to packing the blanket back into the bag again. So again, we need to cooperate. I will start by demonstrating and then you can take over. We take the right hand, we hold it down there, and we take the other hand and then we pull together all the way over. Okay? Now, the next phase will be to roll it as hard as you can towards each other. Perfect. That was actually really good. And so you can put it back into the bag also. And flip it around. Perfect job. Then we will do a second attempt to cover the car. So you can just go into position and always remember to center the bag in front of the car. One before you start. Remember always to have the loop around the hand. Keep the blanket strong and then a little bit higher and then start pulling the car. That was actually a very good cover of the car. But in some cases, we pull the blanket too much or too little. So then it's also about adjusting on the long end. At the same time, like we did on the side, we also have to adjust back and forward. So it's actually the same drill. So we can just practice on it in the front. Keep it low and a little bit out. Perfect. Okay? Then we can pull the blanket off and then pack the blanket again, which is always important. Perfect job again. Now we have focused on adjustment on the side and also in the length of the car. Now it's the third phase, which is the most important phase. How to actually seal the blanket all around the car. So when you are ready, do it again with the perfect deploying that you just did, and then I will teach you the last but most important phase of it all. Okay? Just go. Keep it tight, high. Now we can adjust it a little bit to the sides. Perfect. Now the key element, if we could go from on the back side of the car. When we have pulled the blanket over, then the next phase will be to make sure that the blankets are tight all the way into the car. Which means that we go from the loop all the way into the car, like this. And you can go in that side. And then we walk towards each other first. Perfect. Now you can follow. The purpose is not to kick the blanket under the car, but to let it fall down like a skirt all the way out. So we walk it down like this, and when that is done, we have these small air pockets. In the live fire, it will come out smoke, so we can just walk them down like this. And now we can just walk around the car until we feel that it's completely sealed. Now we have blocked the car out of the oxygen. Perfect. Now we can pull the blanket off again. For this exercise, we just need to fold it perfectly and roll it. We skip the bag, and then we will do one last try to cover the car 100% perfect, with also the last element that I just showed you. So, but we need to pack the blanket though. You always have to communicate towards each other. So we can just lift the blanket a little bit closer. Yes, down there, stop. Okay, everything perfect. Now you know each element. Perfect. Perfect. This was actually a perfect deployment, and just during the third session. Now the practice part is over. Now we're going over to the hot demos. And I said initially, we always bring 2 blankets, like we have done here, for the hot demos. We never know if there is something that goes wrong, we meet the sharp edge. That's why we always bring 2 blankets during training. What will happen now is that we will open the windows or crack open the windows and start the fire. We will see a small fire at first, and then we will see a bigger fire afterwards. But we will start with a small fire and extinguish that with a blanket. Okay? The purpose of why we are breaking the windows is to get more oxygen into the car and let the flames escalate quicker. A traditional car fire goes from its start to critical in 20 minutes. But when we do induce it like this, it goes a little bit faster. The flames are starting to pick up now, so now we have what I would say a small fire. Okay, we can take one on the blanket. The focus is the smoke and how dense the blanket is to keep all the smoke inside. A perfect deployment of the blanket yet again. We can see now from the drill, they're walking in on each side and now around the car. And we saw some of the smoke coming out, which is now kept underneath the blanket inside the car. A little bit more here. That's the purpose. Now you can just walk all around, more circles, because we have another gap there also. You will see the gaps coming out. That gives a little bit of that smoke. Perfect. Thank you. We keep the blanket on for as long as it takes, but the only one who can take off this blanket is the firefighters. Nobody will assess that situation unless you are a firefighter. But since this is a training exercise, I also want to show the smoke that now will be able to boulder out of this car. It will be kept a little bit of smoke. It will be more in the second take though. Okay, so this will be the next phase, taking off the blanket. Now you can take off the blanket and pack it. As you can see, the blanket, how tight it keeps all the toxic smoke inside the blanket, which is also something that is safe for firefighters who then are less exposed to toxic gases, and also when we are talking about EV fires. In this scenario, if we kept the blanket on for, I'm guessing, 5 minutes, the car would be 100% taken out. Now it's probably that the flames can reignite, or we have to help it reignite again. Perfect. What we're seeing here is the firefighters are still packing the blanket back into the bag, which is always important so it's ready for its next job. There is some small flames inside the car, but we will now help it with some more fuel so we can get a bigger fire inside the car. And we will let it go on for as long as it takes so we have a big fire and we will be able to demonstrate the blanket for firefighters' purpose. So I believe that we are now in full fire of the car, and we will now deploy the blanket for the last time in full fire. So, go. Now the drill is really important. Get the blanket as soon as possible over the car and start tightening it all around the car. Now is why we have drilled on this in the earlier stages. Okay. Behind, behind. Walk a little bit closer down here. Now the flames inside the car are taken out, but it is extremely hot inside also. So if we took off the blanket immediately now, it would just start up like a big fireball immediately. But the cooling process has started now inside the car. That's why we will leave the blanket on for as long as it takes. In many cases, it only takes 20 minutes until it's safe to take off the blanket again. You just stomp with your feet. It's more than enough. Try and seal it a little bit. Yeah, just like perfect. The white smoke that we are seeing is more from the heat coming up to the blanket when we see from behind of the blanket, there is some darker smoke, but it's almost close to nothing. That is from inside the car. But the white smoke we see now is more heat smoke going through the blanket. Now it's just the waiting time. So now it's gone approximately 20 minutes. The temperature has gone down to about 50 inside the car and 80 in the roof. So we will now try and take off the blanket again. We will do this in a safe manner. If it then reignites, they will then just pull the blanket over again and let it wait a little bit longer. Still no flames coming in from the bottom of the car. The hottest part in this car right now is the roof, where the temperatures has been building up. But most of the material that can burn will be more in the ground floor of the car. Perfect, thank you so much. This is Thomas from Bridgehill. Thank you for watching this movie.